Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Matt Stores, and welcome to Mattsplaining. On today's episode, I have somebody that I'm very excited to talk to about a topic which I haven't thought of in quite some time, but I think it's going to be very interesting. Expert, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're an expert in.
Hi, my name is Allyson Bills, and I am an expert in scooter litter. So, scooter litter is those electronic scooters that everyone is writing about. That's a big rage, especially before the pandemic. So, there's no really designated place to park scooters. Sometimes there is, but most of the time there isn't. So, people will just leave them wherever, in front of murals, in trash cans, and trees. So, we created an Instagram account that is specifically dedicated to finding scooters around the world, or usually likely from our state, which is Arizona.
Excellent. Yeah, my understanding of scooter litter is just like you said, that it connected even prior to the pandemic, but in some ways it's gotten worse since then. So there's security and safety concerns, especially
Mhm.
in Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C., as I understand it, is kind of the epicenter of the scooter litter happening. But as you said, this sort of thing is happening all around the world. But I think that some of the main security concerns happen in Washington. And I think it feels like there's kind of nowhere you can go and not hear about it. What I mean, like any major city you're in, there's some degree of scooter litter that is going to be going on. There's some degree of pretty concern that this is created by that and the kind of the ramifications. But luckily, with Valerie Plane, she was able to remain safe despite Scooter Litter's disclosures and of her as a CIA affiliated individual to the press. And so some of these other CIA affiliated people have, even though they're around the world in Washington, D.C., they can feel a little bit more secure now, even though Scooter Litter is not out there and like trying to provide that information to the press in the prior administration and everything like that, and just trying to like express this information far and wide. And I don't know exactly how he was providing this information and putting it into actual scooters, but I guess he was going around on these scooters and like talking to various journalists. And then people were like, oh, that's a great idea. So then he's like, oh, let's let anybody use these scooters. And then kind of like the spy films of the past where there would be like
Mhm.
microfiche in
Mhm.
all of the holes of these scooters. There's actually microfilm in them, or maybe not in every single
Oh,
one of
wow.
them. Yeah, so that's actually how this information of the CIA spies, I don't want to say spies, but they're spies, and is actually getting shared around. So sometimes you'll get a scooter and it's a spy scooter with that vital information that they're trying to get to other spies or to journalists and everything like that. And that's actually kind of how scooter litter kind of are built that huge media problem before, and that kind of downfall of the spy. I don't know if it's spy gate necessarily, I don't know if that's what they called it, but that kind of huge kerfuffle. And despite the pardon in 2018, there has been massive fallout. As we can see, not every person can use scooters to spy and just delineate this information. And there's also just the fact that so many of our CIA assets have been discredited and strewn about the streets of these major cities because a lot of them just don't feel comfortable getting this information out. They have to go back to other methods of providing the secretive information because the scooters were a really effective method to send this information around for a while until these journalists figured out exactly what was going on. So, based on what you've heard so far, about how much of that would you say was accurate?
to be honest, I've never heard that before.
Okay.
I would say I wouldn't be surprised if it was accurate. I mean, since our country is like pretty much spying on its citizens, but so I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was actually true.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's some of the data that is being kind of collected.
Yeah, definitely. Well, also when you obviously you pay for a ride, you have an app and it like I think it scans like a QR code, so obviously it has all your personal information, especially your payment information as well. So of
Hmm.
course, obviously, all these apps are gonna keep track of your information.
Right.
So, but yeah, I definitely could see something like that happening
Hmm.
in Washington.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking here. I just did a quick search and it appears that I was thinking of Scooter Libby, not Scooter Litter. So that may have facilitated some of my confusion there. But when did you first start noticing Scooter Litter, and when did you start kind of making it something that you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, so I would say back in 2018, probably even for like later in a year, I just like noticed like some scooters around. I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I mean, I wasn't too surprised because, especially with the heyday of the gig economy, like
Mhm.
Lyft and Uber, obviously they are finding other ways to make money. So this was another way to make money. Like some of the Lyft actually did have their own scooters, and so did Uber. But now,
Mhm.
obviously, it's just Uber and no, there's like different brands like Lime. But
Right.
yeah, started it just like on a whim. I was on my way to meet up with a friend for dinner before we went to a show and decided like, oh, we should like take pictures of scooters. It's just in weird places like bus stops. They're just like around. You just can't ignore them. They are
Right.
a nuisance, but in a way, they're just kind of funny. You just gotta make fun of them because you can't exactly move them because they're actually GPS tracked and they'll know if you like try to steal them and could alert like law enforcement.
Mhm.
I I don't know if anyone's actually been arrested for like taking a scooter, but I didn't obviously want to try. But then just like one day, it's like I'm just gonna take a picture, and I just like created an Instagram account, and that was like in November of 2018, and yeah, then I would just like go like to LA and some different places and take pictures of scooters. And then I would just have people would send me pictures from around the world. We have a fan in Paris that sends us stuff around the world. I actually had some fan message me from Romania, like wanted me to send a scooter
Okay.
from the United States to their country.
Interesting. For
Yeah.
any particular reason that you could discern from that, or like were they trying to like learn
No.
about it, or
No, I just think they just wanted it for kicks.
okay,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
think people have like a deep I think all our followers don't not sure if they have like a deep meaning for the scooters. They just think it's like funny.
right,
Like,
absolutely, that
oh,
makes sense.
they're just like weird places could be uncompromising to some people, I'm sure. But yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the strangest places that you've encountered or other people have sent in where they've encountered these scooters?
I would say most of them trash cans
Okay.
and or just like or people's yards. I've seen pictures of ones that hanging up in trees, not with like I've seen those personally, but they are around. And just like one's like dismembered, like some people just have the guts to do it. They'll
Right.
I'll see those kind of strewn around, but yeah, mostly I say in people's yards. And sometimes I like the weird ones in front of like the murals. It kind of creates a picturesque aesthetic.
Right. Kind of that old style, maybe not old style of art, but that
Yeah.
public art meets this public nuisance, this
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah. I mean, trying to be hip over here, and it probably could be like the new like wave of gentrification with all the gig economies coming in. So people could
Absolutely.
probably argue with like how that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And have you noticed that there's been somewhat of a decline in the last couple of years, or has it seemed to people get a little bit more regulated or comfortable with them in the last couple of years?
Obviously, there was a decline in the pandemic. Just no one wants to like ride around touch something with a bunch of germs on it. But
Right.
I've noticed it's starting to pick up. remember, like, even before the pandemic, Lime didn't do scooters in Arizona anymore, and I'm starting to see some more, like, in
Hmm.
some of the pictures of the Phoenix. I mean, Tucson, where I live, there isn't Lime, but I'm s it's a college town, so I'm definitely seeing a lot more people riding scooters now,
Hmm.
and it's like there's just more, like, being dropped off. So, it looks like it's just picking up back up again. There's always gonna be someone who wants to, like, ride a scooter, and we have, like, an area in Tucson where all the bars are, so people like to take advantage of that as well.
Absolutely. And do you find that, have you gone out late night going to bars or whatever? Do you find that the discarded scooters kind of get a little bit more obnoxious on a Friday, Saturday night when people have gone out to the bars? Or is it still pretty standard?
I would say it's still pretty standard. I think
Okay.
people just have the idea, like, it's your public area, they can just, like, leave things wherever without
Hmm.
concern of anyone else. I mean, it's funny because you're just, like, around, but it's kinda not funny because they are kind of in the way. But I would say it's the same as day and night.
Okay. Yeah, because I've encountered scooters in various cities that I've gone to, and with various big events going on. I've been in cities where there's been Pride Festival and like a sporting
Mhm.
championship and a festival going on all at the same time. And so it was just crazy where you go on one of these apps and it's like you wait an hour for a ride, but if you wanted to jump on a scooter, there's a bunch in the area, but then when you go and try and find the scooter, I don't think I ever encountered one that was actually in a tree, but it was like in the middle of a walkway. And like if I was trying to go down the street, ride my bike or something, or whatever it would be, or kids riding their bike or something, they run into a scooter. It just seems so odd that there's not something a little bit more regulated or more of a like a standard thing that they would have in place by now.
I agree, but I would just think, like, my guess is that our government doesn't really regulate gig economy, so they're just gonna do whatever. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Have you had any pushback from any of these scooter companies for your account?
I
No?
actually had someone from Bird like try to add me on LinkedIn, but I didn't do it because I wasn't sure because it's like completely the opposite thing. So
Right.
I just didn't really feel right accepting that connection. But I
Yeah.
haven't really received anything. I think most people find it funny. I remember having some lady like who actually was a contractor for Bird and picked up scooters, and we would follow each other. And she thought it was actually pretty funny. So I think most people just find it pretty funny, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. I'm happy that they're not trying to crack down or giving you a hard time or anything like that. I'm happy that they can at least seemingly have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And so, do most of these scooters? I've heard previously. You may not know this information, but you said like picking up the scooters. So, do they have people in the companies that like go around and like pick up the scooters and like fix them up or like move them to different places? Is that something that how those run, or do you know about that?
I do actually. I was looked into that years ago, but you need like a bigger car, and I just don't have that or enough
Right.
space. But yeah, it's just like any other independent contractor with any other gig economy, like with like Uber and Lyft, it's those drivers who are 1099
Hmm.
employees, and it's like, or a delivery person with DoorDash. It's still like an independent contractor. But yeah, so you go out like very late at night when everyone's sleeping, you find the scooters and you take them back to your place to charge, and then you drop them off at the designated places that they have on the app. And your pay depends on how hard it is to find this scooter. If it's an
Hmm.
easy one, you get obviously don't get paid as much. If it's like a hard to find scooter, probably especially if it's like on someone's private property, you'll
Hmm.
get paid more, but then that's kind of would open up a lot of legal issues there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wonder how they kind of get around that or what exactly happens with that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure either.
Yeah, that seems. I mean, it seems like there's a whole lot of stuff that there isn't clear documentation or clear indication of how things should go because it is so unregulated and just kind of we'll figure it out. So
Pretty
that's,
much.
yeah, that's kind of concerning to me.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is.
Yeah.
I think as I said before, I don't think our government actually cares on
Yeah.
regulating anything in the gig economy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And luckily, how it's manifested is through at least humor. We have humor from this as opposed to
Exactly.
unfortunate circumstances or anything like that.
Oh, for sure.
Awesome. Allyson, this has been absolutely fascinating and really insightful. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I was glad to come on.
Absolutely. If people want to find out more about you or more about Scooter Litter, where would you recommend that they go?
I recommend they go to our Instagram account, which is Scooter Litter. The profile is a picture that one of our biggest fans, JD Clayton, he's a graphic designer. He designed our logo for us. So you
Excellent.
can't miss the logo. I think we're probably the only scooter Instagram account that actually has a logo.
That's great. Love that. Fantastic. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You too.
My name's Matt Stores, and this has been Mattsplaining.